Welcome to Sports Geek Q&A. Here's your host, Sean Callanan.
Yes, I'm Sean Callanan from Sports Geek. Remember, you can send in your question these ways. sportsgeekhq.com/questions. You can send them in via Twitter at Sean Callanan or at Sports Geek. You can email me, sean@sportsgeekhq.com, or you can actually ask me in real life. If you see me and have a question that you would like me to answer, ask me. I'll answer it. But I also might use that question again in this episode. Don't forget, you can support our podcasting and newsletter efforts via Patreon. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon. These questions all came from the crowd at Pausefest, where I hosted a panel at Pausefest here in Melbourne on the world of esports with some fellow esports colleagues, Chris Derrick from Order Army, Mads Brown from Fortress Australia, and Lewis Mitchell from Twitch. I enjoy these questions, so they have been added to this Q&A episode. Question one was the first question that came from the audience, from the crowd at Pause. What is the biggest misconception about esports and gaming? I think, from my point of view, the biggest one is that it is one homogenous group, and brands in particular, and marketers and people trying to understand the space try to put it all into one group when there are multiple groups and multiple subsections in the industry. In the same way there are in sport. No one says, "Hey, that's the whole sports industry. Let's treat it all the same." I think that's just exactly the same in esports. So first thing is the difference between esports and gaming. Gaming is everyone playing games. That number is very, very big. So that is, I'm playing a game on a console, I play a PS4 or an Xbox, I'm playing games on PCs, or, the growing area of gaming is playing games on mobiles. So if you're playing Candy Crush, you're a gamer. If you're playing NBA 2K, you're a gamer. If you're playing League of Legends, you're a gamer. Esports is the very, very tippy top of that. The best of the best gamers in the world play esports. And an esport is, for mine, is defined by professionals, people playing and if there are people playing and people watching that contest, then I consider it roughly an esport. So there's those pieces that esports and gaming are different. And then inside esports and gaming, there are different titles and different genres, and the demographic, both player and viewer, is very different depending on which one you go into. If you look at, if I just take an example of a Fortnite crowd, which will skew younger, both in player base and viewers, comparing it to an older title like League of Legends and Call of Duty, which has been around for 10 years, has a strong and thriving player base, but then also a much bigger fan base of people watching the esports, and tending to be a lot older, even though the people are coming into the game at 15 and 16. So that's the biggest misconception, that one, esports and gaming are the same thing, and then also that people are trying to treat them as one big group. Question two, because Pause Fest is very much a place for creatives and marketing and agency types. The question was, how should brands enter esports and gaming? And again, I'm putting esports and gaming because I think they do go hand in hand, and they do require different strategies, as I sort of spoke before. They're not one group. But my best advice is to go in with your eyes and ears open, and ready to learn about new platforms and even new language. If you go in with a approach that, hey, this is the content that we've got on other platforms, or this has worked on other mediums, without catering and understanding the market, it will fall flat, or resonate not at all. And I think at the moment, especially in this market, but I think it's actually a smart global approach, is to take a cautious approach, and which for me makes sense. You have to ignore the hype, even as someone who is a hype man for esports and gaming. You need to peel back some of that hype and understand what you're trying to get out of it. It's exactly the same as if you would tackle any other vertical, whether that be live entertainment, music, sport. You need to know what you want to get out of it, but take a cautious approach. because people will say there's 300 million people watching, and that is an aggregated figure across multiple titles or around a major event. It's just, it's a matter of understanding what you're doing and taking a cautious approach, but understanding that you'll have to be planning to upscale for success as the industry grows. So this is a really good time to get into the market, to understand, test and learn. So when the budgets start justifiably being raised, you'll have enough knowledge to know where you should put your money. And I think the other thing that I do tell brands, and I expect the same of us, representing Gravitas and pitching to brands, hold gaming and esports accountable. If they're going to make big, bold promises about anything, hold them accountable, make them earn the dollars. I think some of the early money coming into the space hasn't been earned, and that has caused some issues in some regions around the world. I think it is a two-way street. You can't be pointing fingers from a sponsorship point of view. If, as a sponsor and a partner, you're not holding someone accountable, and then on the other side, if you are the rights holder and not delivering, it is a two-way street. So if you're a brand entering, hold them accountable, knowing that the industry overall is still learning the space, not exactly across all things data savvy. You can't hold them to the same high bar that you might do in established businesses like music and sports, but knowing that that's the place you want them to get to. The third question was a curly one, and I didn't want to avoid it because I've got some strong opinions, was how will gambling affect esports? Again, this is a question from the crowd at Pause Fest. I think it has big potential on both sides. And again, putting my hand up here as a team owner and someone inside the industry, but then also seeing what gambling has done from a revenue point of view to the world of sports, especially in this market in Australia, and what it's starting to do in the US as they start opening up the opportunities. But it also has some real concerns around the damage that it could cause, both from the people who gamble and get into issues, and also if there's a way for gambling to make money in a sport doesn't have heavy regulation, they will push hard into it, which brings a really unsavory element potentially to the space. So, as a team owner, I am looking out for my players, and so I think there's a real care that needs to be taken by the industry to look at things like integrity. What does that look like in the esports space, and what can publishers and league owners, team owners, tournament organisers do to protect and care for the players involved? So in the same way that a lot of the sports have done that, traditional sports have done that to protect their players from those types of concerns, I think esports as an industry needs to step up to deal with the problem, to deal with the issue, and also make sure that their sport is beyond reproach. So competitive integrity of the game itself is super vital. So, I think things like responsible gambling foundations and initiatives in that space are really important. And I think it's something that esports should embrace and understand, and figure out how they can be cohesive partners and reap some of the returns and opportunities that gambling does offer sports from a revenue point of view, but make sure a fair portion of that money is put into efforts around player education and integrity. Anyway, thank you to the people who asked the questions at Pause Fest. I really did enjoy the chat and the panel with Chris, Mads and Lewis. Thanks again for those questions. Remember, you can send them in any time on any of my social channels, or send an email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. And remember, if you like this podcast and you like the main podcast with interviews from sports executives from around the world, you can support these efforts on Patreon by going to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon and pledge your monthly support. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek.
You can reach Sean Callanan via email at sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Find out more about Sports Geek's Digital to Dollars process at digitaltodollars.com. Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.